Heavenly Father, we'd like to thank you this evening for this gathering. Father, we invite you that you lead this occasion. We pray, our God, that all the endeavors, Lord, that you lead them, you guide them. Even this program this evening, we pray that you bless all the proceedings in this occasion.
Thank you. Thank you, Murudi. The Lord directs his steps and establishes them. So he says, while he's still going to his seat in the spirit of church, please turn to your neighbor and say, I am a champion of change. I am a champion of change. And if you don't know your neighbor's name, this is the part where you get to know your neighbor's name. Yeah? I also like to use this opportunity. It's just a quick icebreaker. We had our networking time earlier. If you're on time, I know you maximized it. I also like to take this moment to thank Smoke J. Lawrence, who was really entertaining us. If you're in the room, thank you, Smoke J. Lawrence, for the beautiful entertainment. A round of applause, please, for Smoke J. Lawrence, who played so beautifully in the foyer. Next I'd like to call upon Miss Ayanda Larkin Harrison, the Executive Chairperson of Vuyolethu Haven, who will give us a welcome address. She'll tell us about Vuyolethu's mission, impact, the importance of inclusion and acceptance, and she hopes to spur us all to action by the end of the night. Over to you, Ms. Larkin Harrison.
This is really overwhelming. Thank you everyone for coming. Minister of Basic Education, Honorable Vuyolethu, Her Excellency Dr. Sanji Monafi, High Commissioner of the Republic of Botswana and the Republic of South Africa, representing our funders, Ambassador Tandiwe January McLean, Trustee, Ms. Kanyisile Maseko, Ambassador of Humalani Empowerment Trust, Administrator rather, of Humalani Empowerment Trust, our dedicated autistic young experts panel, Josh, Cardi, and Zama, the very heartbeat of Vuyolethu's Haven, our resilient educators, parents, carers, and all our valued guests today. Good evening, and it's an honor to stand before you as the Executive Chairperson of Vuyolethu's Haven, and I welcome you all warmly and with deep gratitude. I'm going to begin with a reflection on the profound African philosophy of Ubuntu, which teaches us that I am because we are. This principle underscores the interconnectedness of all people and the belief that our humanity is affirmed through our relationships with others. Ubuntu speaks to the essence of humanity, that our well-being and identity are intrinsically linked to the well-being and dignity of those around us. Ubuntu emphasizes compassion, mutual respect, and the recognition of each individual's inherent worth. In the context of inclusion, Ubuntu reminds us that a society's strength lies in its ability to embrace diversity and ensure that every member, regardless of their abilities, feels valued and supported. It requires us to dismantle barriers, challenge prejudices, create environments where every individual feels valued and supported. By embracing inclusion, we affirm the dignity of all people and recognize the richness that diversity brings within our community. Inclusion is not a mere option. It's a fundamental necessity that enriches our communities and upholds the dignity of all individuals. As Professor, as most of you might know him, Professor Sifutu, who works for the Center of Neurodiversity at the University of Johannesburg, as he has said, to steal his words, Vuka Afrika. Let us awaken to the richness of neurodiversity and rise as a continent that champions every child's potential. So, Vuyolethu's Haven. Vuyolethu's Haven was born from a really personal journey and a very painful journey. I have the privilege of being a parent of a son that's got a dual diagnosis of autism and ADHD. My son was diagnosed with severe autism at the age of 2. And I entered a world that was unfamiliar, unsupportive, and at most times in actual fact, extremely isolating. The silence of autism was deafening. The absence of information, the absence of empathy, the absence of accessible resources left my family, and like many that are in this room today, feeling invisible, and we continue to struggle with hiding our children and living in fear of what the future holds for us, and living in fear that we cannot die because what will happen to our children. This experience tested every part of me. It led to a breakdown in many relationships, including my marriage, and it also became the fire that lit my purpose. 11 years later, with the backing of my mother, specifically my mother Pearl and my daughter Liana Larkin, I stood in that fire and chose to build something meaningful from the ashes of struggle. And so Vuyolethu's Haven was born. Vuyolethu's Haven is not just an organization. I believe it's a movement, a safe place for families like mine, a voice for those that are voiceless, and a vehicle for change. Our mission as an organization is to equip and empower schools, parents, and caregivers, and to educate the society about the beauty and challenges and the incredible potential of autistic individuals. Our work focuses on education and training, offering hands-on and practical knowledge to parents, caregivers, and teachers, community engagement, driving awareness and breaking down the stigma through dialogue and advocacy. Support services providing emotional and practical support to families that navigate the unique journey of raising a neurodivergent child. Through these efforts, we're building an inclusive ecosystem where autistic children are not only supported, but they are celebrated. One of these transformative pillars of our organization is the Autistic Young Experts Panel. And I would like to take a minute just to acknowledge those panel members, and if they could stand for me. Josh, Cardi, and Zama. These are, if you can remain standing for a minute, please, guys. Remain standing for a minute for me, please. These are passionate young individuals with a diagnosis of autism. And they live with that diagnosis on a day-to-day basis. And we as Vuyolethu's Haven are privileged to have them as part of our organization. Being someone that's not neurodivergent, although I've had people tell me, there's something there. It's difficult to speak on the subject eloquently because I don't live what these 3 young people live through every day of their lives. So I can't relate as deeply as they can. So hence the idea of the AYEPs came to fruition. And can we please give them a massive round of applause?
It's our daily life spectrum. So we have learned to live with it, with the children, Ms. Bachelor, the principal of Futura is here. I'm representing all the principals who are here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Lucia Monongi. I'm a senior lecturer in the Department of Educational Psychology at the University of Johannesburg. And I'm mainly based at Soweto campus, although I also cross campuses to APK. And I work with the Center for Neurodiversity, which was recently established. It's just about 3 years old now, and established at Soweto campus, where we work with children and parents of children who have got neurodiversity. Thank you. Tell us who you are.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Zola Masibugo. I'm from Mohato School for Autism. I'm a head girl of Mohato School for Autism. And tonight I'm brought here because at my school I was nominated to give a speech about children living with autism. And as I am here today, I'm here to speak for everyone who lives with autism, who don't know how to speak for themselves, because I believe that I can change, I can make a difference, and I can be their voice, you know. I thank you very much.
So in the spirit of diversity, we've got the women on one side and the men on the other side. This isn't practicing what we're preaching. So Dr. Mshomogi, please stop with extraordinary designer and father so we can have real diversity and real inclusion. Thank you for indulging me. We'd like to practice what we preach. And so, we have a simple boy, Dr. Simple Boy, who's already set us off by telling us that being a medical doctor didn't prepare him for the reality of being a parent. So what are the challenges that you have faced parenting a child with autism?
I think being a doctor has given me some privilege, and I will start with how even that privilege is not protect us.
Can you all hear me? Excuse me, sir. Can you all hear me? Step back into your
okay. Yeah. Like I said, both our have been doctors have given us a simple and not privilege, but that has not protected us. And I'll give an example that when my son was diagnosed, the first, up until he was 6 years old, we actually going for treatment at Steve Academic Hospital, which is a public hospital. But that benefited us, and maybe before I get to the benefit, because we were both working professionals, we could not take off all the time. I would leave home at 4 in the morning to go and queue, and my wife would come at 8 o'clock with her degree, so that we can then quickly go back to it. So that was a bit of a challenge, but we were able to do it. I think what that helped us with was that we got to interact with other parents, and that is where we actually got to learn more about autism, more than what we had learned in the books, more than what any other professor of pediatric neurology could have taught us. Interacting with other parents was the greatest thing that I believe happened to us. Thank you.
Thank you. So Dr. Sabo says his greatest lessons came from interacting with other parents. And we had earlier him saying it's a really Ubuntu issue. Right? It's a Ubuntu issue. So we're here to share ideas with each other, to cross-pollinate, and to hopefully all leave here more enlightened. Yeah? And so as we continue to ask questions, do you want to add design extraordinaire on being a parent, or father of a child with an autistic child? What experiences can you share? Maybe add to what Dr. Lissamo said, especially representing your network of fathers.
Okay, so the thing about autistic children is number one, they are almost a walking evidence of your shortcoming. This is why a lot of parents tend to be in denial or tend to want to hide their children. Because you could be in a room like this, the child will go off over there. The minute that happens, everybody turns to your corner. Some parents are embarrassed by that situation. This is why a lot of parents will not take their children out into society or into the community because they feel inadequate to be able to deal with that level of attention, first and foremost. Secondly, the inadequacy or the lack of information where they're still trying to figure out themselves what they're dealing with. They are scared of the judgment because then everybody's going to ask, what's wrong with him? So what the parents opt to do is to stay at home. Don't go out with the child. Don't take the child out because they want to protect the child. They want to also protect themselves. So this is, I could say, is the base challenge of most parents, to the point that when we started FCN, our first week when we launched, one of our members took his own life upon receiving the diagnosis of the child, because he did not know what he's supposed to do or how he's supposed to traverse that journey. So I could say that would be the very first challenge that a lot of parents would find themselves having to deal with once they receive the diagnosis.
Thank you for sharing so candidly. And before we move on to yours, I'd like to hear from you, Zama. What do you want everybody here to know? I know you told us that you're a head girl, and we'll talk to the principal here after. But what is it that you want us to know about, living with autism? What do you want us to learn? We want to hear from you. We've heard from what a father says about, what fathers say about raising a child with autism. Yeah? But what would you like to share with us so we can hear you too? We don't want to leave you for last. We'd like to hear you front and center today.
What can I say about autism is that most of we are diagnosed differently, you see, and just because that child doesn't know how to speak, the other one has tantrums, does not mean they are crazy and that they don't have any dreams or the future ahead of them. What I believe every child who's autistic today or who was diagnosed or in the past is, everyone here, no one has a challenge, but I know that there are children out there who made it in life, and some of them, I know some of them, they are grown-ups, like Bill Gates. He was autistic, and that he's the one who created cell phones, and as well Lionel Messi, the footballer, as well, he was autistic, and look, he's a successful footballer. So I believe every child who is autistic, they can achieve their dream as long as all we want from every parent and everyone else who don't know anything about autism is to accept them who they are.
Someone says she just wants acceptance. And I'm sitting at a table called acceptance. It's titled acceptance. So if you want to sit at our table later, we'll welcome you. More than welcome. More than even accepting is to embrace. Yeah? Because accepting we can park it, but embracing is saying, let's walk this journey together. Yeah? So let us embrace. So principal, please tell us, being head teacher of Mahado, the Special School of Inclusive Education, please tell us what are the experiences of having to head or teach learners, and how different is it essentially? We're talking about diversity today, neurodiversity, but what is the diversity in the education system when it comes to teaching pupils? with autism?
Yeah, quite a challenge, but fulfilling. We have 3 levels at schools for autism. So there are those who are like Zama, we say it's level 1. We have level 2s and level 3s. Level 3s are the ones that were at the lower functioning. So what we have found out is that the curriculum will take them from grade R to grade 5. And you have learners like Zama who can go further than that. Then at 18, it's challenging, nowhere to go, no workshops and whatever. So we, as Mohato School, we have seen from the decades, we can enhance the skills of the learners by introducing a subject like hair and beauty, subjects like consumer studies. Those are the subjects, so that when they go out on their ISP is the individual support plan. We support the learners according to their ability at that moment, so that when they go out of school, at least they have a skill that they can perform. We also work with other NGOs. Vuyolethu is one of them. They are assisting the parents on a daily basis. We have a school group where the parents will ask the question.
I'd like to ask you, ladies and gentlemen, to stand with me as we ask and request our keynote speaker, Honorable Siviwe Wahube, the Minister of Education, Basic Education, to deliver her keynote speech on inclusive education and transition to adulthood. She will really talk to us with a slight overview of current educational support for children with autism in schools, inclusive education, and the transition to adulthood. So if you will, in line with the protocol lesson I told you earlier, please rise for our Honorable Minister.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Thank you very much, everybody. Please have a seat. Natasha told us a little bit earlier this evening that we will stand on the protocol that's already been established. However, I do want to make a special mention of Dr. Sanji Monacheng, who's our ambassador to South Africa and Botswana. I also want to make a special mention to our retired ambassador, Tandiwe January McLean. I also want to make a special mention to our esteemed hosts of Vuyolethu's Haven, who have brought us here tonight and who have made tonight a reality. And I also want to really acknowledge the leaders in the disability and education sector, educators, caregivers in the room, parents in the room, above all, our extraordinary children and young people living with autism. I want us to give them I want us to give Zama in particular a round of applause. And the reason why for that, ladies and gentlemen, is that even without living with autism, when I was young, Zama's age, being on a panel with adults at an event like this would be incredibly intimidating. But she wasn't intimidated. She rose her flag, and she really closed off with a voice from people living with autism. And that for me, I think, is incredibly important, because it's important that we don't talk of people, we don't talk about them, but we talk with them about their lived experiences. And that, for me, is one of the incredible things about Vuyolethu's Haven, is that they've made an effort to say, even in our board, even in our organization, we want to hear your voice. We don't want to talk about you, we want to talk with you, and we want to be led by you. And so that is really, really excellent. So good evening. It's truly a pleasure to join you tonight at the Champions of Change Gala during this Autism Awareness Month as we celebrate courage, commitment, and the collective journey towards inclusive education in South Africa. Let me begin also by thanking Vuyolethu's Haven for your leadership in organizing this important event. You remind us that creative and inclusive society does not begin or end in boardrooms or in a policy document. It begins with love, and sometimes it begins with a painful story. It begins with passion, but it's often really ignited by a real lived experience and with advocacy and deep belief in limitless potential for every single child. So, siyanhalalisela, siyanbulela ngomsebenzi wenu, sithi ngana ningaqhubeka nisenza ngakhona. And so tonight, we are here to celebrate, but more than that, we are also here to reflect, recommit, recognize the very real work that lies ahead in ensuring that children with special learning needs not only are included, but are embraced. Natasha said it's not just about inclusion, but it's also being embraced. But for me, I want to take it a step forward. It's not just being about embraced, but it's about being empowered and uplifted by our education system. And it was incredibly insightful for me to listen to the panel discussion from an academic point of view, from a parent's point of view, from a person living with autism's point of view, even from the network of fathers. And just listening and hearing these stories has been really enriching for me personally, and has really reignited the commitment and the yearn that I have that we have to do better as the South African government in being able to say, what are we doing, what more can we do for inclusive education in our country? Because our children, all of them, are protected by the Constitution, their rights are immediately realizable, and we owe it to them. It's a matter of constitutional obligation. It is not a nice to have, but it is something that we owe all children in South Africa to be able to say, we will provide you with quality education that caters for your needs. We're not going to ask you to pigeonhole yourself into an education system we've designed. Our education system must be responsive to you and your needs, and that becomes incredibly important. Ladies and gentlemen, we know this, that for far too long, and this was mentioned during the panel discussion, for far too long in our communities, children who live with physical and cognitive disabilities have been condemned to a life of shame. They spend their days hidden away in a bedroom. Ubaba, who was speaking here, I think from the network of fathers, was saying it's far more complicated than that. That you want to protect your child, but at the same time, you also want to protect yourselves. And so for far too long, our children remained hidden, wanting to say the visitors are coming, put the child in the bedroom. And I'm saying today that gone are those days. Now we want to embrace all our children. We want to embrace all our children because I can tell you with certainty that having been around the country for the past 10 months visiting various schools and visiting various special schools with schools where there are children with special needs, I can tell you how incredibly talented those people are. I have gone to special schools where I've seen children get a skill, develop things, whether it's in robotics or things with their hands. But ladies and gentlemen, those people do not deserve to be locked away in a bedroom. They deserve to be elevated, embraced, and empowered, and they deserve to live a life of dignity. And that is what we're going to do, and that is what we are going to do from now on. And so, as a Department of Basic Education, we are taking bold steps to move from intent to action. It's very, very important, and chief among these efforts has been the establishment of the Ministerial Task Team on Inclusive Education. Because of course, as was really communicated here by our panel, and including the panelists from the University of Johannesburg, that there's a lot that is unknown about inclusive education, about children living either with neurodiversity or children with special needs. There's a lot that is unknown. There's particularly a lot that is unknown amongst policymakers and lawmakers. And so it's important that we bring together experts who can advise and say, well, these are some of the things that the education system is doing that is failing children. This is what you can do to be better responsive. And so I really look forward to the work of this task team. They've been at it for some time, and we do anticipate that in the next year they'll be able to deliver a product to us that will help us reshape our education system. But we haven't just really stopped there. And I mean, what I like about this task team is that it brings together educators, therapists, psychologists, policymakers, advocates, and importantly, people living with disabilities themselves. Because we firmly believe that nothing about us without us. And so this task team is currently conducting this comprehensive review of how we can implement inclusive education in South Africa. Their work is focused on identifying on what is working, where we are falling short, and what must be urgently done to ensure that learners with special needs are no longer excluded from the promise of a good quality education. And so perhaps this might make me a very bad politician, ladies and gentlemen, but I do believe that even as a government, you must acknowledge where things have not always gone wrong, where things have not always gone right, where you have failed, where there are areas of improvement. And I can say with certainty that a lot has been achieved in our basic education system, but a lot more can be done when it comes to being inclusive in our basic education system for our children. And I'm very pleased to see that over the past 2 years, at least the 2 financial years, there's been an increase in funding for inclusive education in our budget. It's important that we put our money where our mouth is, that we're not just talking about intent, but we're also talking about action, and tangible action. And as many of you here in this room would know, who are advocates in this sector, you would know that this requires investment. Whether it's investment in infrastructure, whether it's investment in the requisite curriculum, whether it's investment in the requisite staffing in a school. We had a teacher from a school here, and he can certainly tell you that they have a special cohort of teachers who teach learners with special needs. And so that requires investment, but that requires a government that recognizes that we have not always been good at doing this, and we need to do better. We haven't been always good at providing this level of access. We have to do better. We haven't been always good at being more inclusive. We've got to do better. And I'm saying to you that we've recognized that this is an Achilles heel for us, and we have to do better. Inclusion is not a favor, it is a right. And inclusion is not just about placing a learner principal in the classroom. It's about providing that learner with the resources, the teaching support, the emotional safety, and the opportunity to thrive. We must remember that when we educate a child with special learning needs, we're not just simply helping them learn to read, write, and count. We are building their confidence, their communication, and their self-expression. And most importantly, we are helping them build a life of dignity. I was saying to Omama earlier before we came in, that my dream is to one day make sure that every single child who goes to a school with special needs is able to leave that school having acquired a skill, with a certificate that says this is the skill I've acquired, so that they may be able to go and apply for a job one day, so that they can be independent, they can earn a living, but most importantly, live a life of dignity. And it's possible. And so education must be a springboard to jobs, to independence, to creativity and participation in society. And this means that special schools must be equipped and trained to welcome learners who are differently abled. That is the future we're working towards, one where no one child is left behind. Behind every child living with autism is often a village. We heard Ayanda, who was speaking here a little bit earlier, is often a village of support. Be it parents, be it grandparents who are sitting there on the table there, be it caregivers who are around this room, be it siblings, teachers, therapists. And so tonight, I want to honor you. I want to say, Siyabulela for looking after our children. Please give yourselves a round. In addition, I want to honor the educators, principal, who adjust their teaching styles, who are the caregivers who spend long nights researching better therapies, the parents who fight daily battles in silence, and the children themselves who wake up every day to a world that still struggles to understand them, a world that requires them to contort themselves to fit in our world. And so I want to say to all of you, and yet they keep showing up. Look at the incredible children in this room. They keep showing up despite the harshness of the world. And so I want to honor you tonight, and I want to honor you during this Autism Awareness Month. The emotional toll, the financial sacrifices, I think Ubaba was speaking here about the differences between access within the public healthcare sector and the private healthcare sector. These are all financial sacrifices. The systemic barriers, we see them. We recognize that it should not be this hard. He specifically spoke about how his wife and him would take returns, queuing from 4 a.m. and then the other one rushes to work and then the other one takes over. It should not be this hard, ladies and gentlemen. It should not be this hard. We should be a lot better at being a world that is not only inclusive, but that embraces the diversity with which our country has always thrived under. See, diversity is not just about racial diversity. It's also about the very diversity that we experience here in this room.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Now, as we draw this memorable evening to a close, I stand before you with deep gratitude and immense appreciation on behalf of Vuyolethu. Tonight has been a beautiful celebration, as Natasha said. Not just fundraising, but awareness and understanding of what autism is. Firstly, I would like to extend a very special thank you to our Minister in absentia, to all our speakers and the panelists. Thank you for shedding light on the journey of parenting a child with autism. Your professional insight helped us to understand the importance of early intervention and support system. It was both moving and inspiring. Zama, thank you. Thank you for your personal story as someone on the spectrum. It was incredibly powerful, a true reminder of the strength and beauty in neurodiversity. To all teachers, caregivers, and parents, your strength and courage are what inspire this movement. To all the sponsors and donors, and all you beautiful people here, friends of Vuyolethu Haven, let tonight be not the end, but a stepping stone. May we all live with renewed commitment, not just to raise funds, but to raise awareness and hope. I would like to thank the hotel, the Houghton Hotel, for all the contribution that they gave us. You gave us a hand, but we kept on asking for more, and we ended up with an arm and a leg. Lisa Ann, if she's here, thank you very much. M&P Productions for your photography and videography. I'm sure you'll be able to see these pictures on our website. At 8 Productions, Tanda, thank you very much for your diligence and your sacrifice. We can't thank you enough. Smoke, where's Smokey Joe? Thank you so much for your beautiful music. By the way, he did not charge us 1 cent for his performance tonight. He said it was all for a good cause. May God bless you, Smoke. The band and the beautiful rendition, Gugu and Liana, were excellent. By the way, Liana is my grandchild. To the kitchen staff and the waiters, thank you.